Salutations everybody, it is Maddie here today, and in the background you are watching some exclusive Far Cry 4 gameplay. As most of you know, I was recently brought out to San Francisco, California to play 4 hours of Far Cry 4, and I walked away pretty impressed. While I was playing, I had my friend's iPad next to me, and anything that came to mind, I jotted down in the notes section. So some of these ideas may be off the walls and come out of nowhere. I'm just going down the list on what I want to talk about today and bring you guys overall my thoughts on this game. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this game does add a few new enemy types, which is always awesome, but the one that really stuck out to me was the Hunter type. It adds a new element to the gameplay. Basically, he is fully stealth. You can't hear him running, and he uses a bow and arrow to kill you from a distance, and they have different arrow types like flaming arrows that set the ground on fire around you, so when they miss their shots it still affects you, which adds a new element of gameplay. But also, he can take other animals and charm them to attack you. So while you're trying to take him out, you have to also focus on the very tough to beat animals that are attacking you as well. So the only way you can remove this charm is by killing the hunter himself. So it's very interesting on how that works. It's using your environment against you. Anyways, moving on, some of this may be a bit of a reiteration of what I said in my 5 ways this game has improved from Far Cry 3, but the draw distance in this game is easily the best I've seen since Skyrim, I have to say. It's really just an awesome feeling getting to a massive height and looking out into the distance. For 4 hours straight, I promise you, anytime I got to a high area, I looked out into the distance. I just had to. It was a jaw-dropping draw distance, and I just couldn't get over it over and over and over and over. Anyways, it also helps that you can get back to ground level with the wingsuit, so you can also fly through this fantastic land, and you all know what the wingsuit is from Far Cry 3, hopefully. Anyways, like in most Ubisoft games, you can interact with a certain object at the top of a large structure which unlocks certain waypoints and collectibles on the map, but the difference in this game is that I felt that with each area being uniquely designed and cosmetically different with their own things to offer, that I wasn't just chasing down rewards. It also helps that when you do a certain amount of these side missions, you unlock free weapons that you don't have to buy. So basically, it kind of motivated me to keep on pushing forward, even if it could have become a bit tedious, because mind you, like I said, I only played 4 hours, which is enough to really enjoy the game, but not enough to say anything got tedious or boring. So even down the line, even if this did get bothersome, I'm still being rewarded for my endeavors with free weaponry. Another thing that really stuck out to me was the choice in story modes. Now, this doesn't spoil anything for Far Cry 3, but there was a choice you had to make in the end of the game, and that's about it. In Far Cry 4, you make choices in the story missions that help choose the leadership of the Golden Path, and when you make these choices, they result in entirely different story modes, and your actions have an impact. And I really, really like that, because they're actually pretty difficult to make, because each person you're helping out has different views on how the Golden Path should go, which is the group or tribe you are a part of. The story seemed to have an emotional push, which did invest me, but like I said, I was hanging out with a bunch of YouTubers and Ubisoft employees, so it was really hard to kind of sit there and be like, oh, I'm so invested in this story, don't talk to me. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to say there. Moving on, I had one issue, which I discussed with a lot of other YouTubers there, and we all agreed upon it, that we all were accidentally hitting the touchpad during combat or movement and unintentionally switching weapons, which became quite frustrating over time when I'm just trying to sprint away from an enemy and I accidentally bring up the touchpad menu and I switch weapons, and it's just a real pain in the ass when that happens. And I'm hoping that that's something they can fix, whether it be reducing the sensitivity of the touchpad or making the area around it smaller so that when my thumb slips off and touches the touchpad, that this doesn't continue to happen. Another thing a few YouTubers and I discussed that we did have issues with was that animals do take an unreal amount of damage. As I stated earlier, they are very tough. For example, me and my buddy Connor were playing online co-op, and we went hunting for honey badgers in a little side quest, and as awesome as it was a bit weird hunting them with RPGs. That's how much damage they took, where we had to protect these villagers while we were doing it, so we had to hunt them with RPGs because we couldn't kill them in time with our normal weaponry. So that's something I'd like to see tuned down a bit, not to the point where they're completely weak and defenseless, but I shouldn't have to unload a clip of an SMG into a honey badger and have him still running around. So yeah, it's hilarious in context, but it's also just ridiculous. Moving on, there's a new thing called Fortresses, which is a co-op mode, but it's also something you can do by yourself. Basically, there are more complex and difficult outposts that require strategy and teamwork. It's easily the highlight of the co-op, And naturally, in co-op, you can also take on outposts, explore unique locations, climb the bell towers, all that stuff. And like I said in a previous Far Cry 4 video, all the progress you make in these co-op modes also transfer back to your single-player file. So you're kind of rewarded for going online and just messing around with a friend because you're not really losing anything. Anyways, me and a few other YouTubers did experience one crash each. Most likely these are just kinks that need to be worked out because this was not the final build. It was a near final build according to a man that I was talking to there. But I felt it was worth mentioning because each one of us had our game crash at least once. So yeah. Anyways, each outpost and fortress does have a tiny little side quest you can complete afterwards, which can involve assassinating a royal army lieutenant, or hunting some type of animal, saving hostages. They're little fetch quests, and they don't have really any depth. They just offer decent rewards, and that's about all they are there. You can do them online in co-op, so it's a little something to do, but overall they weren't really that interesting, but it is more content offered to you. There's a new karma system where dynamic events occur in the game, and this gives the game a sense of unpredictability, though I did notice a few times when I was running around the map that these dynamic events did spawn in the same area occasionally, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a bit. But still, when you help these members of the Golden Paths in these karma events, you get tokens which you can use to call them into backup. So if you're an offline player, you don't have an internet connection or something like that available at the time, and you want to take on a fortress, you can call on these Golden Path members with these tokens. And so, like I said again, this again made me want to do these events because I was properly rewarded. There were many times I did call on for help while doing this. I really liked the graphics overall, and the maps were pretty well designed. From the sun glaring off the rippling water to the trees, I mean, the face animations, everything were well designed. I mean, it was just an overall polished game, it looked like. One other complaint I do want to make is that the driving was a tad finicky. Everything was mapped to the left stick. Now, this was to compensate for the fact that you can shoot and drive. You can do an auto drive mechanic where you click on the left stick and the game takes you to your waypoint as long as you have something marked. So, and if you don't have anything marked, it just drives along the road, which is cool, so you can focus on aiming and shooting. But when I just wanted to drive with the left stick and focus on my environment, I felt that I was almost like punished because, like I said, it was all mapped to the left stick, but not in the good way like Halo kind of is, but in the way where like reversing was a pain in the ass, turning corners was a pain, and overall the driving needs some work. They need to tighten up the controls a little bit on that. I'm not saying add extra buttons, but the whole map to the left analog stick thing needs some work. And finally, in Far Cry 3, I felt that the map was the same lush greens over and over and over again. In Far Cry 4, that is not the case, as areas are varied, and this fixes what was one of my easily core issues of Far Cry 3, as in all the reviews I saw were, this tropical island is just beautiful and I couldn't get enough exploring it, when all I was seeing was the same stuff over and over. But those are my first impressions of the first 4 hours I got to play of Far Cry 4. Overall, I walked away very impressed, really enjoyed my time with it. A few issues with it, as you guys heard, but overall, nothing that's really pressing where it really didn't make me want to get back into the game. Ever since I left the trip, I really wanted to dive back in and shoot some enemies and go hunting and do all that stuff. The world is big and inviting, tons of stuff to do, so I'm very excited to get that game from Ubisoft and start reviewing it as soon as possible. Anyways, what do you guys think of Far Cry 4? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.